Michael Kaskey-Blomain, and hear what he has to say about how did it get to this point, Michael? I mean, how did the Sixers not see that something was wrong with this kid? Give me your explanation on how 4 games in, we've already got another Sixers debacle.
Yeah, it's crazy it came to this so quickly, Mike. I think it's a combination of, Fultz probably wanting to get out there and play, being the number 1 pick with this hype, and the team, not necessarily wanting the negative PR that would come with starting off the season with another top pick on the shelf. Somewhere in between that combination of things, I think we get Markelle going out there the first four games with a bum shoulder. Obviously looking completely uncomfortable the whole time, and a situation that slowly snowballs into what's become a pretty bad PR situation now for the Sixers.
Another in a long line of them, and this was supposed to be what Colangelo was here for, right? To put these out and get ahead of the story.
Yeah, that's what's pretty ironic about the whole situation. At the time, the narrative was that the league had stepped in to replace Hinkie with Colangelo for specifically his ability to, his interpersonal skills with agents specifically and with media members, 2 things that Hinkie was really kind of hit hard for during his time here. And this situation seems to be pretty much a result of Colangelo not handling, either of those relationships well. He said he was on the same page with Fultz's agent, but clearly the 2 sides were not on the same page to the extent that, the agent had to go to the media to kind of calm down some of this bus talk and, show that there is something wrong, because the Sixers didn't say that. So, it's definitely, like you said, it's the latest in a long line of, mishandling of injury situations for this team. I wish I could say that we were surprised, but, I don't think anyone is at this point.
Mike, this is just mind-boggling that it took the agent to have to come out and say something for all this to go in motion and for Markelle to finally be sitting. I mean, call me crazy, but I'm watching the game, and I'm like, anybody, even Helen Keller, can see that this guy is not right.
Yeah, absolutely, Deshaun. Like you said, it was super obvious to anybody watching it that he wasn't right, and that's just what makes you question what they did today, they should have done a week ago before the season started. It was obvious that he was, not right during the 2 games that he played during the preseason. At practice, he was shooting the same way. There was clear signs at that point, whether or not he was, there was no medical reasons to hold him back. Like if, as Colangelo said, he was medically cleared to play, whether or not that was the case, it was clearly bothering him and affecting his game, which in turn could and has affected his confidence and his impact on the floor. And it just seems that this decision that came out today to rest him for, at least the next 3 was a decision that should have been made before he was even on the court at all this season.
I mean, but even if you're Brett Brown, and you're playing this kid and you see that he clearly doesn't want to shoot the jumper, and he's forcing the ball into the hole, and he's getting his shot blocked at will. I mean, he's missing free throws left and right. I mean, even as a head coach, don't you go to the kid and say, listen, I just can't play you right now. It's not doing you any good. It's not doing us any good. Like, we just can't have you looking that bad out there this early into your young career.
Yeah, Brett had said that there's, clearly something wrong with Markelle, and that, he and the organization had wanted to work through it. I think at that point it might come from a little bit higher up. I don't think that, if Markelle's cleared to play and the organization wants him to play, I don't think that Brett necessarily would have been able to not play him without hearing something from above. It certainly seems like it's a situation where there should have been ample red flags. Like you said, any observer that's not necessarily even keen to the situation could see that he was bothered, and there should have been, multiple markers before he was out there where people stopped him from playing. And I think now the concern is that, how much damage has been done to his game as far as from a mental perspective. If this heals up and he gets back out there, is he going to kind of regress due to, being in his own head? We don't know. And it's something that could have been avoided by, like you said, if someone, whether it had been Brett or, someone in the front office had just addressed this issue and came out and said publicly, we all knew the shoulder was hurt, and just said that he was dealing with lingering shoulder soreness and they were just going to shut him down. We've all been used to it it might have got a little bit of bad PR at the time, but it certainly wouldn't have been as bad as the PR that the team's getting now.
Yeah, Mike, let's put it this way. I mean, my 6-year-old son who plays basketball was watching the game with me, and he's watching Markelle Fultz shoot free throws. He's like, Daddy, are you supposed to shoot like that? I mean, this is the number 1 overall pick in the draft, Mike.
Yeah, he's shooting like Shaq out there, and you could tell that, there's clearly discomfort in that form, too, the way he brings his arm up, and it's just something that, it's unfortunate that he has to start off his career like that under this scrutiny. It's something that could have been probably dealt with in a, kind of a more under-the-table manner, and instead the situation really turned out as bad as possible to where now, people all over the league, fans on social media, whether or not they're even watching the Sixers, they're calling him a bust, unfortunately, because you just look at his stats or you look at, the clips of him shooting that are going around Twitter. And this is, something that he's already going to have to deal with now when he comes back.
Couple things. Michael Kaskey-Blomain's with us. Yesterday, the agent comes out and said he had fluid drained from his shoulder. That story ended up changing to, no, he had a cortisone shot back on October the 5th, so went from shoulder drained to cortisone shot. Colangelo said no structural damage. Why the backtrack from drain to cortisone shot and all the bizarre stuff that happened from yesterday to the press conference today?
That's the main question I think a lot of us have been trying to figure out. You would think that Fultz's own agent would know exactly what happened to his, star client's shoulder, the guy that just, got drafted first overall. It seems very strange that he would, go out of his way to go to the media with this report and then have it be incorrect, only to kind of retrack his steps and change it a couple hours later. He clarified and said his intention with the report was to let people know that there was an injury and to not, to kind of quell the talk that it was all mental and he had kind of just fallen apart miraculously since he had been drafted. He wanted to let people know that there was a physical issue. I personally don't know or understand how it went from fluid in or fluid out, how that detail changed. It seems like a pretty important detail, but it certainly seems that as though, the agent and Colangelo have not been on the same page throughout this process.
And obviously the kid's stuck in the middle, and like you said, kind of, he's drafted, they trade for him, they make a big deal out of this. He doesn't want to let people down, so maybe Colangelo is being truthful that the kid never said anything. Is that possible? That he just says, look, I don't want to let anybody down. I got too much pressure on me. I'm just going to try to plow through.
I think that's definitely possible, Mike. It's tough. It's unfortunate that it seems there's almost a blame game going between, the two sides here, when in reality everyone just wants Fultz to be out there healthy and be a big contributor to this team that already is, starting to show some of this promise. But I think there is a definite possibility that some of this is I'm not going to say on Fultz. I'm certainly not blaming a 19-year-old kid that was the top pick in the draft for wanting to play through an injury and to, not have the fan base be, oh no, another injured guy. But I certainly think that could be part of it. If he had come out from the beginning and said, this is bothering me to the point that I don't want to go out there, I'm sure the situation could have been different. So he's not completely blameless in this, but at the end of the day, this is a 19-year-old rookie, and we're talking about an organization that, as you and I both know, Mike, has a history of, struggling with the timeline of recent injury issues. So
and should be criticized. They should be criticized for it. It's fair to look. People act like if you're pro-process, anti-process, that there are things that you can't like. You cannot like certain things that they do while you're supportive of their on-court product. Their off-the-court product has been a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is dating back to, from recent memory, obviously the entire Bynum situation where we went from thinking he would be ready on opening night to kind of
Which was a completely different regime, by the way. Which was a completely different regime.
Yeah, completely different regime. Ownership was still there, same ownership, obviously. And then, Michael Carter-Williams, the timeline, Okafor, Embiid, Simmons, Noel. The list is extremely long. So it's, like we were saying, it's not a surprise, but it's just unfortunate now that Fultz is kind of stuck in the middle of it.
Let's do a couple of real quick hitters with you. Who do you want to see more minutes, Amir Johnson or Jahlil Okafor?
I'm ready to see Okafor get some of those minutes for Amir Johnson that Amir's been getting. We're just getting nothing from Amir. I understand in principle why Brett wants him out there, the veteran presence. Okafor has his defensive deficiencies, but Amir's not bringing it on the defensive end either, and he's certainly not bringing it on the offensive end. And he just doesn't have a future with this team if, one way or another, if Okafor is going to end up being a reserve big or if he's going to be trade bait. You're not helping his situation one way or another by burying him behind a guy that's, quite a few years past his heyday.
Are you over Jared Bayless?
Not over Jared Bayless, especially now with Fultz down.
For the record, I'm not. I think people are too tough on him right now. I'm not over him, but I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I'm not down on him. I think, he certainly could use some work on the defensive end, but he's been shooting at a pretty decent clip, being able to space the floor next to Ben. So he's doing what he's in there for. Ultimately, I'd like to see, the situation is that those minutes go to Fultz when the time comes, and I think that'll, balance.
Got to work on that floater, though. Bayless got to work on that floater, though. Yeah,
got to work on the floater and work on staying in front of the guards on the defensive end.
You disappointed or okay or expecting more from J.J. Redick so far?
Maybe expecting a little bit more from him, but at the same time, it's a completely new team, new situation. I think it's what J.J. is. Not concerned about him.
Last one. Disappointed in Dario. Is he out of place on this roster?
I think he's kind of struggling to find his footing with playing some of these backup five roles and coming off the bench after getting accustomed to, being in that starting role for the second half of last season. 4 games in, I think a lot of these guys are trying to just feel things out. I'll feel more concerned about, both of these guys if, we're 20 games in and the same issues are still lingering.
At the Real Mike KB on Twitter, check him out. And, of course, the Sixers tonight. He'll be there for Sixers and Rockets. Hands full tonight. Teams with veteran guards give the Sixers fits. We'll see how they defend. Could we have a 6'10" Simmons on James Harden tonight?
Yeah, that's going to be a sight to see. Simmons taking Harden to the rack because we all know that James is not too fond of the defensive end.
At the Real Mike KB, follow him on Twitter for tonight's Sixers action. You can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. You the man, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Great talking to you.